it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to a special 2 p.m. Tuesday matinee edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. My name is Keaton Weiss here, of course, with Russell Dobular.
Hola.
Hola, everybody. Thank you for being here. We hope you're having a good beginning of the week after the holiday yesterday. Appreciate you all being here very much. 529 to start things out in the YouTube chat, 442 over on Rumble. Let's hit that like button. Let's build that crowd up in here. I want to just start out by reading a Rumble rant. And, His Highness, I would have read this anyway because we were thinking of you. Good news, Double D boys. I'm out of the ER after a 27-hour stay, which was better than the 36-hour one I had in November. Lousy diabetic ketoacidosis. Keaton, give me a little Norm to help me heal. Sure thing. Mazel tov. On your release from the hospital, His Highness, I wish for you good health and longevity. There you go.
All right. I haven't pitched it to him yet, but longtime viewers might remember I covered the Mermaid Parade in Coney Island last year.
Yeah.
I think Norm would be the perfect correspondent for this year.
Yeah, that would be great.
It's like it's at the end of June this year.
You should go. You just film it newscast style.
That's exactly what I'll do because I got to pick this up from B&H today. So with your donation and patron money, we've been upgrading. You might have noticed my sound has been improving with every on the ground report. So now I am going to B&H today to get a handheld wireless mic because those kinds of like Trump rally situations. A couple of places I did get people to just stand for an interview with the lavalier, but you can't always do that. Sometimes you just got to be able to like put the mic right up to their mouth. So I ordered that. I ordered a shotgun mic. So yeah, we should have all that equipment going for the Mermaid Parade, and we'll just have Norm with the reporter mic.
Yeah,
doing the thing. You think he'll go for it? What do you think in the chat? Do you think he'll go for it?
I think he will.
I think he'll do the Mermaid Parade.
He has
coverage?
A good sense of humor. You got to drag it out of him a little bit, but he does have a good sense of humor at the end of the day. So I think he will. Well, we have a very special guest who is joining us today. You all know Craig Pasta Jardula. We're going to admit him in just a second, but we are joined by Craig for a very good reason. He was on the ground this past weekend at the Libertarian Presidential Nominating Convention, and he did some great reporting from there. We're going to show you guys a little sizzler reel of that reporting and some of the interviews, and then we will admit our friend Pasta. Before that, let's do this. There we go. Beautiful. Woo. All right, folks, we're going to full screen this video. Here's a sample of Pasta's work this past weekend at the Libertarian Convention, and then we will admit him for this interview. So here's Craig Pasta Jardula at the convention in Washington this past weekend.
Hey, everybody, Craig Pasta Jardula. We are here at the Libertarian National Convention here in Washington, D.C.
Would you recognize that a lot of the reasons we have so much migration to the border is our foreign policy?
I'm not going to blame our foreign policy on illegal immigration. I mean, part of the biggest reason we have illegal immigration into this country is Joe Biden is inviting them. I mean, they're being promised free benefits, amnesty, all of these other things. No, I'm not going to blame.
You don't think 100 bases in Latin America is a reason why stealing their resources is sending so many people to the border?
No, that's not the reason. I mean, I do think we should get the CIA out of Central and South America. I do think we should end all of the sanctions on Cuba. Those are just sane things to do. But blaming our foreign policy or blaming immigration on our foreign policy is almost as in Central America, I think is almost as ridiculous as blaming global warming on the illegal immigration.
Baj, what'd you think of the speech?
It was cool.
Yeah?
I think that regardless of whether he's lying or not, doesn't matter. His following has been introduced to liberty ideas that will expand their thought process. That's the law. I've been saying this the whole weekend. The law of exposure. Those followers that he has have now been exposed to Ross, have now been exposed to insert whatever, all of the liberty ideas. He's up there saying, whether it's true or not, he's up there saying, hey, I'm Donald Trump. I'm actually kind of a libertarian.
It has been part of the Democratic Party's longstanding vision to use large-scale illegal immigration as a way of acquiring long-run voters. And the best evidence for that is the fact that many of those people who did enter the country illegally are on a path to actually vote in elections, are on a path to citizenship, which allows them to vote. And so my view is there is an alignment of incentives here. It's no accident. It's not a coincidence that most of the people in the Democrat Party who favor open border policies are also the same people in the Democratic Party who are opposed to voter ID requirements in order to vote. I don't think that's a coincidence, and I think that reflects incentives.
But what evidence do we have, though? What evidence do we have that they would vote Democrat in the first place? A lot of these people who are coming across the border are very religious. They're not going to really go play into the LGBT community and whatnot, and we don't have any evidence.
So just because you have a plan doesn't mean it's going to be an effective plan. I actually agree with you that many people who are coming to this country share deeply foundational conservative values, pro-family values, pro-country values. And so it's my view that in the long run, just because they've laid that plot out doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to succeed for them.
Gave it a hell of a shot, man.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Your thoughts on the whole process and what you experienced today, Mr. Rectenwall?
Well, it's kind of sucks winning 5 straight rounds and then losing in the last one. And I was promised an endorsement by one of the candidates who turned out to be a snake.
Yeah.
So lied to me 4 times. And that's just, the lack of integrity amongst these people. I'm stunned.
Chase, you are now the Libertarian candidate for President of the United States. You're going to come out of this pretty much an unknown by a lot of people who are not inside the Libertarian Party. How do you make a splash for the Libertarian Party for those out there who don't know who Chase Oliver is?
Well, I think it requires energy, enthusiasm, and running a bold campaign that takes no prisoners, that says we must free ourselves from the warfare state and the abuses of this overly abusive and intrusive state as it currently exists. If we run true to our principles with energy, enthusiasm, and passion, we will wake people up. Know one thing about me. I'm not a politically connected elite. I'm not somebody who was born with a silver spoon in my mouth or has been in politics for the last 50 years. I know what it means to be someone who lives paycheck to paycheck in this life. I have lived the life that so many Americans are and that so many Americans are struggling to get ahead with.
All right, there's a little sample of his work over the past weekend. You all know him, co-host of the Convo Couch and host of
You've
Pasta.
heard of gays and guns? Chase Oliver is both.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. Co-host of the Convo Couch, host of Pasta to Go on YouTube and Rumble, our friend Craig Pasta Jardula. Pasta, yo Pasta, que pasa?
Yo!
What's up, gentlemen?
How's it going, man?
It's going. It's been a long week, or whatever you say. I think we got here on a Wednesday night. Thursday, we hit the ground running, and we didn't stop. On Sunday, we had a 14-hour live stream. So it's been a little crazy, but it's been a lot of fun. And I really wish you guys could have joined me because it was really more than anything a nuanced convention of sorts. I mean, I've been to Democratic conventions, whether it be state conventions in California or national conventions altogether. And, the DNC stuff is nothing compared to what we had going on over here with the Libertarian Convention.
Yeah, it seems like, when you go to a Democratic convention or a Republican convention, it's this pageant. They're already kind of on the same page when they get there. They know who the nominee is going to be, right? The goal of that is a big sort of PR show for the party, whereas this kind of seemed like an old school convention where the party was really figuring out what it was and what it wanted to be moving forward. And as you saw in that little scissor reel I played, you had Thomas Massie there, you had Vivek Ramaswamy there, you had RFK, who's an independent but former Democrat until a few months ago, and then you had Trump there. So you had Republicans there, you had this former Democrat there. We don't see Democrats going to the Green Party convention asking for their support. Like, it was this kind of weird thing. And you mentioned, because you mentioned in a couple of these interviews, you consider yourself a libertarian leftist and that you felt welcome there and you felt that they were making a pitch to you, at least some of them. So do you want to describe that? Like, what made you feel like this is a good place to go to see what they're about? What was the diversity of thought in the room, in the hall, and in the hallways outside the main floor?
So goes the time, so goes the discussions, I would say, right? And right now we're dealing with this whole Ukraine-Russia situation, the Gaza-Israel situation. We have Julian Assange, who just won an appeal. But what did he really win anyways? Mad censorship. So, I mean, those were the topics that were most talked about at this convention. And these libertarians, especially the Mises caucus, the ones who have taken over the power, which is kind of inspiring. Remember when we had that pipe dream that we were going to be able to take over the Democratic Party if we just grassroots come together, the whole Bernie Bros clan, we're going to just take this party over.
Yeah, that was nigh around 2015. we were all full of piss and vinegar back in those days.
Yeah, we thought we were going to take over, but as we know now, the establishment is going to always rule with an iron fist. Squash.
I remember they called us Bernie Bros, even though more than half of us were women.
I know.
Now I see RFK upside down back there. Is that because you're saying his campaign is in distress?
Well, it's a little in distress, but that was like inspiring in a way, right? On October 7th is when I left, or October 8th is when I said, no, I'm not going to support this guy anymore, right? And there was a lot of anti-imperialist leftists who felt the same, same thing with the libertarians. As RFK was coming out, as people were coming out of the RFK speech, I was catching them, asking them how they felt, and they were mostly delegates I was talking about, and they appreciated the fact that he went to them and tried to make a pitch. But I asked them all, would you vote for him? No. What if he was the libertarian candidate? Would you vote for him? No. Why? The major reason, Israel, Gaza. So that's when I say these libertarians are based when it comes to foreign policy, right? Ron Paul was there, and that's who the Mises caucus is. It's the party of Ron Paul. It's young, energetic energy, but they're really of Ron Paul. And it was inspiring to me. He got eliminated on the first ballot, less than 1% when he was nominated on the convention floor. Same with Donald Trump. So no matter what, these libertarians, they stick to their principles. They're not going to have a gun held to their heads. A lot of the Trumpers that were there when Trump was speaking, we caught video. We saw people going back and forth. And the Trumpers were giving their same old pitch. If you don't vote for Trump, Keaton and Russell, you're voting for Joe Biden. And then we're like, we don't care. We're voting for a libertarian. Wow, we're libertarians.
That's like the bizarro world version of what we get from the Democrats.
Yeah. But other than that, we also talked about freedom of speech, freedom of a press. They had the big three. That's why you got the Free Ross sign behind me over there. Let me move out of the way. You can see it. Ross Ulbricht, they consider Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, and Ross Ulbricht the big three who are unjustly jailed. And I talked to them about Mumia. I talked to them about Leonard Peltier, which is really cool, and kind of get to educate them on that. A lot of them knew who they were, but I think they're going to start.
So if you ask that question at a Trump rally, if you ask them who Mumia is, they're going to think it's an Ethiopian restaurant on Fifth Avenue.
Well, it's funny. They got a fake promise from Donald Trump to free Ross. He said he will do it. He also said, I'll put a libertarian in my cabinet. Yeah, and people were celebrating that as if that promise means anything. I mean, come on. I know Tim Pool asked Donald Trump, will you free Julian Assange? He says, well, I'll think very seriously about it. As if he's not the one who prosecuted him in the first place and declined to pardon him on the way out. But the fact that they got those two names there was a huge draw. And had they not nominated this guy, see, at the time, I thought this was I thought they played Trump and RFK pretty well, because I thought, all right, we're going to invite these guys to the convention. We're going to get a lot of press out of the fact that they speak there. We're going to tell both of them to get their fucking shine box, and this will be a big commercial for our party. And it's true that more people know who Chase Oliver is now because they had Trump and RFK there than would have if they didn't.
Picked someone else.
In that case, it's a win. On the other hand, they picked Chase Oliver. But we'll get to that in a minute. I don't want to talk too much about him right now, because I want to talk about this split between the Mises Caucus and the classical Libertarian, because Ron Paul says the Mises Caucus are the Libertarian wing of the Libertarian Party. But it seems to me, from what I'm hearing, especially in their opposition to Chase Oliver, I would consider them more, and not that they are Trump aligned, but they're more populist, I would say. They stray more from libertarian orthodoxy than the classical liberal wing. Now, I'm not an expert on the party. I could be wrong on that, but that's what I get a sense of. How accurate is that?
I don't know.
Because where you're on the left, you ask 10 communists what's communism, you get 10 answers. I'm sure it's similar on the libertarian side, right?
I would assume that too as well. And when you speak to, listen, I met people who call themselves libertarian socialists. I was looking for them. Right. I found them. There was a small group of them. And the Mises Party is anti-socialism, just like the rest of the party itself, right? 80% of that party does not like socialism at all. I don't think they understand socialism, or they just have this American kind of view of it. They don't understand what, from what I've experienced. I'm getting ready to go up to Mexico to observe that election. But all those Latin American countries that I went to, when I observed that socialism, it's more like collectivism. It's a form of nationalism. They're coming together to get the empire off their neck, and that's why they have a socialistic government. And I kind of emphasize that going on. But the whole thing that I'm so happy about more than anything is those libertarians understand that our foreign policy is the why we have so much migration. The interesting thing about Chase and his vice president is they're for open borders, right? Mike Matter, who is the is that how you say it? Mike Termott. Sorry, Mike Termott. He's the vice president. Which I'll get to that story in a second, guys, because there was some juicy stuff. This was like boiler room as this, it was like as somebody gets eliminated, all these other candidates are going behind pillars, going outside doors, trying to make a deal. Get your guys to throw your strength my way. The light went off.
Because it's ranked choice voting, right? That's how they do it.
It's a form of ranked choice voting. It's amazing. Like when you said, these people don't know who their candidate's going to be. You aren't lying. They didn't know who it was going to be until that final vote was cast. Something interesting. As they were eliminating candidates, whatnot, they also have none of the above. NOTA. The second to last round, when there was two candidates left, none of them, neither one of them, Chase or Mike Rechtenwald, who you heard him come off the stage and speak, they met the plurality, right? They didn't have the 50% plus one. So they eliminate the bottom candidate each time. So on the last round, Chase Oliver had to run against none of the above. Had none of the above won, there would be no presidential candidate coming out of the Libertarian Convention. It was like, it was mind-blowing, because now you have a bunch of libertarians scrambling, trying to figure out what to do. You asked about that Mises Caucus, right? The Mises Caucus is in power. So naturally, all the other groups, the old school groups, the new groups that are coming around, they're just going to vote against the Mises Caucus because they want to take back power. Right. So now you have these people scrambling, realizing if they don't come out of this convention with a candidate, they're going to lose ballot access in 10 states like that, right? So it was like crazy times. They were trying to make deals. The vice president candidate, eventually they picked the vice president the same as the president, the same way. However, there was fewer candidates. And right after that whole Super Bowl grudge match for president, we got a little slice of the vice president one where Clint Russell, who had beaten up, he destroyed Vivek Ramaswamy in a vice presidential debate. He was now running against the guy that Chase Oliver wanted for his vice president, and Mike Termott. And he just barely squeaked it out. It was a lot of fun. It was interesting. It was definitely like a form of democracy. Like I said, the conversations were great. You guys would have loved it.
Well, it's funny. If they had actually printed none of the above on their ballot line, they'd have probably won the whole election. I'd vote for none of the above over any of these candidates if they
Brewster's Millions, baby.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. Well, I want to talk about Chase Oliver, who's the Libertarian nominee for president. So, Politico reports here, Libertarians pick Chase Oliver as presidential nominee. The Libertarian Party selected former Georgia Senate candidate Chase Oliver as their presidential nominee on Sunday, spurning appeals for support over the weekend from both Donald Trump and RFK Jr. The selection of Oliver, who has described himself as armed and gay, and whose third-party candidacy helped force a runoff in the Georgia Senate race in 2022, came a day after Trump suggested he would be the best nominee for the party, drawing a sustained chorus of boos. The former president was deemed ineligible for the nomination by the Libertarian Party chair. Trump wrote on his social media platform that as the Republican Party's presumptive nominee, he could not have accepted the nomination anyway, while Kennedy was eliminated in the first round of voting, receiving only 19 votes. Oliver, who is aligned with a more traditionalist faction of the Libertarian Party, the classical Liberal Caucus, clinched the nomination after almost 8 hours and 7 rounds of voting. He defeated a more hardline Mises Caucus candidate by less than 1% in the penultimate round of voting before delegates were asked to choose between Oliver and no candidate. Mises Caucus pretty much versus everyone else is where we're at, said Adrian Malagon, the Mises-aligned chair of the California Libertarian Party. I think there has to be a better understanding of what the mission is going to be going forward and better organization. I just don't think it's sustainable. Okay, so the Mises Caucus remains in power. Angela McArdle was reelected chair of the party, so it's still their party in that sense. In a different sense, this nominee doesn't seem to reflect that more populist-aligned will of the Mises Caucus. However, there seems to be, from my standpoint, a lot of confusion about whether this guy, Chase Oliver, is a real libertarian, because some people can't believe some of his views. How could you be for X and call yourself a libertarian? So I just want to walk through a couple of these, okay? So Tim Pool tweets out, the LP just nominated a pro-vaccine mandate candidate. And then Barton Bella points out that what Chase Oliver actually tweeted was, a business can decide to require workers to be vaxxed or limit customers to those with a vax, but no, government shouldn't make those decisions. So he's not for government mandates. He believes in the right for businesses to mandate the jab for their workers, which you can agree or disagree with that. I disagree with that. I don't think employers should have that kind of power over their workers, but that's why I'm not a libertarian. This view of his, that yes, businesses have a right to mandate things, that is very consistent with classical libertarianism. So of course a libertarian would think that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where Rand Paul got in trouble years ago, because he was arguing against desegregation of private businesses.
Right.
Because if you follow libertarian logic to its conclusion, yes, that should be left to the marketplace. Well, if you don't like that this lunch counter is segregated, don't patronize
go to another one. Exactly.
Yes. And I think you heard on my video when I asked him the 3 questions, and I asked him about gain of function, right?
Yep.
That was a trick question, because I had a feeling he was going to say what he said.
Yep.
And
there's more. I just want to get to a couple more of these if it's okay, because these is all consistent with libertarianism, right? So libertarians, by nominating Chase Oliver, the LP just alienated every Silicon Valley libertarian I know. Their presidential nominee supports transitioning children. That's right. He is against banning gender-affirming care for minors. He is not pro-mask or jab mandate on a government level, but he supports businesses' rights to do that. Men and women's sports, I guess he wants the government to make no rules about that. Again, think what you want. That's a consistent libertarian position, as is open borders. Like, libertarians' go-to is not the government's business. Yeah, any medical treatment for whoever wants it, sure, that's up to the market. Like, he is he is a real libertarian. The fact that he's being rejected by so much of the party, to me, says that there's been an ideological shift in the party, which there has been. Otherwise, the Mises Caucus wouldn't be in power. But that's what's going on here. You have an influx of basically MAGA-adjacent populists flooding into this party, crying foul at a guy who really is a pretty textbook libertarian. Go ahead, Pasta.
Well, I mean, I don't know if he's the textbook libertarian. I think there'll be an argument about what jobs, what an employer can do as far as a vaccine of what you put in your body. I think that's kind of a nuanced question. I don't think a lot of libertarians sit on that because it's, once again, they believe in your body, your choice, right? That's
right,
part of your freedom.
But that doesn't mean the business, based on libertarian principles, has to accommodate your choice.
Right.
Go
Based
work
on
somewhere
libertarian
else.
principles, the business would say, okay, we require our employees to be jabbed. If you don't like it, go work for another employer who doesn't.
Yeah,
and
I know
the most market-friendly employer will win out. This is why I'm not a libertarian, because they don't account for power dynamics. You impose a mandate on your workers, 99 out of 100 workers are going to accommodate the mandate so they don't get fired. And that's why I'm not a libertarian. But so I'm not defending his point of view. I'm saying it's pretty consistent with libertarianism.
I mean, if you look at libertarian taken to its logical conclusion, it's like they saw Mad Max and they said, good idea.
I
do
would
it that way.
I would just argue that this is a situation that hasn't been touched before. I mean, it's hard to say this is a classic libertarian position when, you know, we haven't had to deal with a global pandemic of sorts. And,
sure,
you know, I would still think that a lot of libertarians will still come forth and argue the ultimate freedom is your own body. That's where your own sovereignty lies.
Well, that's what the Mises Caucus is saying. Yeah. So, I mean, you're right. You're right. But I'm just saying, like, for them to say we want to take the party in a different direction, that's totally valid. I support their right to do that. I agree with them in this case. Like, I'm with the Mises Caucus on that question.
Yeah.
But they're the ones taking the party in a different direction. Like, this guy didn't hijack the party. This guy, I mean, I could have predicted. You told me, okay, classical liberal libertarian, yeah, sure, open borders, no ban on gender medicine, like, whatever goes, man. We're not making any rules. That makes sense to me.
And like I said, that when I asked him that question, a ban on gain of function, he's like, well, I would ban the government for doing it, but if the free market did it,
right.
you know,
That's their answer for everything.
Like, dude, this is gain of function over here. Like, no, it should be banned. Like, I don't care if a private business wants to do it. No, you're not going to do it. You're not going to create a disease then to try and create the cure, because that's what they do in these situations. And also, too, this guy bragged when Donald Trump got, you know, deplatformed, and a lot of people kept that tweet. Clint Russell retweeted it himself. So, you know, I mean, he was like, you get what you deserve. And I believe he kind of quoted one of the amendments that the Democrats continued to quote. What was it, the 25th Amendment, or I can't remember what it was, when it was saying when you got to impeach the president of
the whole ball game.
Yeah.
Well, this is the problem with the libs on the censoring bit. They become libertarians when it comes to big tech censorship, because the libertarian argument is Meta's a private company. If they don't like what you say, they could throw you off. Again, not an argument I agree with, but consistent with libertarian orthodoxy as far as I know.
But once again, they're not honoring a contract. The big tech companies, are they? Right? They've entered an agreement with the United States citizens, especially Section 230 of the NDAA, where they said they're going to act as not as a publisher, but as a platform. And doing so, they're protected and shielded from any liability. They can't get sued, so they have to honor that. Totally. And if they're going to enter into that agreement, they should have to show their homework. It should be an open source system where we can see their algorithm and see what they're doing. And that means a lot to me, coming from a guy who's been censored up and down for quite some time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I'm with you 100% on that. But so Rechtenwald said he had won 5 rounds of voting and then he lost. So how much of Chase Oliver's nomination is due to their sort of ranked choice voting type system? Because it seemed like this guy wasn't at the top of the pack until the opposition to the Mises Caucus sort of consolidated behind him.
Yeah. Well, I heard they called him the Joe Jorgensen of 2024, right? There's Joe Jorgensen, supposedly. She was in 3rd place most of the time. And at the very end, as people dropped out, they made alliances. That's why, like I said, it was like boiler room. In between each vote, you see all these candidates going everywhere. It was so exciting. But I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that Dave Smith, who was supposed to be the choice for the Mises Caucus, right? He was going to run for president. And you guys know Dave Smith. You've seen him on when we did the Smith Door 24, very popular. He dragged his feet and he dropped out very, very late. It didn't give any candidate time, especially Mike Rechtenwald, that should say his name, a chance to properly campaign and get the momentum he needed. So he really, and Dave took accountability for this, but you know,
he sent the big
regardless,
tweet,
ranked choice voting or however they do it, because it's not really true ranked choice voting. It's like a form of elimination ranked choice voting, or however you consider it. It didn't make a difference. A presidential candidate has to campaign, and it needs time to campaign. It needs time to knock on doors, make phone calls, whip votes, and their candidates didn't get that time. Even with Dave's endorsement, he fell short. And you heard him come off the stage and say, this guy's a snake, because there was some inside stuff going on that was very exciting to deal with too as well. Mike,
do you know who he was talking about when he said that? You don't have to reveal it.
I know. I'm assuming it's Mike Termat, because or Matt, is it Mike Termat, right? I can't say this guy's name right.
That's one obstacle to becoming a candidate for president. No one can say your fucking name.
Nobody knows your name, right?
Yeah.
Well,
definitely can't run as a write-in.
Yeah. Like before the last 2 or 3 rounds, that Mike Termat would accept a VP position from Chase Oliver. Now, the crazy thing is that the same way, the way they pick the vice president is the same way they pick the president. So they're just kind of letting the other delegates know what they plan to do, how they're throwing their weight. They made a little last-minute backdoor deal, and it worked out for both of them, because Chase Oliver became the president, and Mike Termat just barely edged out Clint Russell. Like I said, and Clint Russell beat up Vivek Ramaswamy on that debate stage. He just edged him out, and now they got the ticket they want.
So Vivek was, this is a kind of a tangent, but Vivek was participating in a vice presidential debate. In other words, ostensibly, theoretically seeking the VP nomination of the Libertarian Party.
No, I think they were setting something up where, Vivek can go out and reach out to libertarians, all right, because that was their plan. The MAGA crowd wanted to do that. They understood that they were going to come out of this convention with somebody who we can't even say his name, which I've messed up 3 or 4 times now, right? So they were going to go reach that. It was like a reach out plan. But to do so, they made an arrangement. Why don't you, since you're being kind of name dropped to be China, Donald Trump's vice president, why don't you debate with our vice president?
Yeah,
so
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so they wanted to kind of say, look, we have our vice president, and there's their vice president.
Right.
We beat him up. Why don't you debate us again? It was a great plan by Angela McArdle.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a pretty strong indication that he is, at the very least, a top contender for Trump's VP, if he's going there to partake in the theoretical VP debate. Yeah, that's definitely a sign.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I got for you, Pasta. Russell, you got any final questions for Pasta before we let him go and move on?
Are they really competing to be president, or is it for the free Chick-fil-A coupons they get as the Libertarian nominee?
I think it is for the free Chick-fil-A coupon. I think. I am not sure, Russell, but
that's what I've heard. It's like a year you can eat there for free. So
there you go. Actually, the best perk at Chick-fil-A would be skip the line. Better than free food. Getting to skip the Chick-fil-A line is a huge perk. Anyway, Pasta, where can people find you?
Maybe that's a suggestion. Maybe that'll improve the quality of their candidates.
There you go.
Do they have a suggestion box?
Look, guys, there was a press conference, and I even asked Angela. I said, "Don't you see this as a lost opportunity right now? You're coming out of this as the third party. You are the third party right now. More people are seeking your party." And here's something very interesting. I'll leave you guys with the new registrations from people coming.
What are you saying about the Greens?
What's that?
What are you saying about the Greens?
The who? With new people registering for that party. With new people coming from the duopoly, you would think it would be like 85% Republican, 15% Democrat of new members. It was like a 60-40 split, somebody told me. They're like, there are so many Democrats that are coming here, they can't believe it. There are leftist libertarians, and like I said, so goes the discussion, so goes the time, so goes the discussion. And there's a lot of things we agree on. We had a lot of conversations about foreign policy and war. My show is my name is Craig Pasta Jardula. My show is Pasta to Go. You can find me on Rockfin, on the Combo Couch. You can find me on Rumble at Pasta to Go. Same with YouTube. And we do have a tweeters out there, guys.
All right. Awesome. Well, Craig Pasta Jardula, love you, man. Thanks for coming by. I hope to talk to you again real soon.
Thank you, Pasta. Good seeing you, man.
Chicago, right? We're going to Chicago?
Every fucking freak in this space is going to Chicago, including me.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to Chicago. And Nice is going to be there.
Yeah. I heard Garland Nixon's going to be there. Me and Jamie are talking about going there. Listen.
Are you definitely going, or you don't know if you're going?
Well, if I'm in the country, which I'm supposed to be in the country, I will definitely go. But think about this, Russell and Keaton. We're going to the Democratic National Convention simply to protest. That's it. That's the only reason why we're going there, to raise hell. This convention, it was all about nuance, conversations, discussions. We didn't talk too much about property rights and the free market. We talked about what's going on in the United States, foreign policy, censorship, and the freedom of a press. It was an awesome convention. I tip my hat off to the Libertarian Party for throwing a great convention.
going to be pasta arrabbiata at the DNC. Angry pasta, right? Spicy
Angry,
pasta.
mad.
That's right.
The neighborhood
Mad
I'm staying in Chicago is supposed to have all of these old school Italian restaurants. It's one of the reasons I picked it.
I'm
And
just
it's
kicking
walking
Picabello
distance
out
to
of
the
his
convention
bed.
center.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I'm
That was our.
I'm throwing Kid out of his bed and staying at Kid's place. That's what
Yeah.
I'm doing.
That was our first plan. First plan.
We should do that.
Alrighty, man. Great to see you again. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me on.
We'll
Thanks,
see you soon.
Pasta.
Craig Pasta Jardula, everybody. Round of applause in the chat for our friend over there. Thank you, Pasta, for coming on. Great insight into a great weekend. We are going to, right now, take a quick game break before we continue the program to shout out our Patreon. Oop, wrong tab. That's Jake's app that I accidentally put on the screen. That's how I know how many Rumble viewers are watching at a time. But here, I'll share this again. Sorry.
Giving away our trade secrets.
Yeah, that's a trade secret. Yeah, don't share that with anybody. We'll have to come for you.
They'll never be able to figure out how to make one of those themselves.
Yeah, right, exactly. Exactly. You can go to patreon.com/do dissidents if you like what we do here and help support the show, help us create even more content. That's patreon.com/do dissidents, dodissidents.substack.com, or you can join our locals, dodissidents.locals.com. Oh, yeah, by the way, speaking of locals and Rumble, we got more than 666 in the Rumble chat. There you go.
Now that we're getting so big, we're doing some more numbers. We're gonna do. I liked your Prince 1999 idea.
Yep.
And we'll do 25-25.
There you go. Yep, I like that. 25 or 6 to 4, 2,564. That's the Chicago tune. But yeah, you can sign up and become a member.
I know what song you're talking about.
Doom.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Yep, Patreon, Substack, and locals. That's how you can support our show. You get your name up in lights here on the patron scroll. You also get call-in access to our weekly post-show Q&As. You also get access to 2 supporter streams per month. Our second one of May is going to be this Thursday in the afternoon. I believe it'll be at 2 o'clock. We'll finalize a time for that, though, for tomorrow, but it will definitely be Thursday afternoon, our second supporter stream of the month. And we want to start pushing the patron memberships now, because if you join at Patreon, Substack, or Locals as a paid member, you get live stream access to our live show in New York City on June 9th. There will be 2 performances, the 2 o'clock and the 7 o'clock, different content at each show, different material for each show. So if you want a doubleheader that day and you can't make it to New York to see us in person, you can watch us on a live stream by becoming a member. So that's patreon.com/do dissidents, dodissidents.substack.com, or you can join our locals. Perks are the same across all 3 platforms. Please and thank you very much. Hey, our super chat star machine is working today, so that's good. Pat Donahue, thanks for the €10. Congrats on the 60K subs, lads. Thank you. Just back from Miami. Some amount of Zionists there. Sad to see. Oh, yeah. Well, that's, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's what is she saying, Goodfellas? It's nice down there, but it's like you died and went to Jew heaven.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Indeed. Putz the Mouse, as always, I love you guys. Thank you, Putz the Mouse. Appreciate it. Great Star Wars meme on DDX. Shared it. Oh, did you tweet out a Star Wars meme?
Yeah, I think you're talking about mine, because I didn't put that over on DD.
But it was Russell's. By the way, I tweeted out a cute picture of my dog, who's here in the studio with me today. I would orient the camera towards her, but I might break the camera and freeze the stream and ruin the show, so I won't do that. But if you want to see a nice picture of my dog who's sitting on the other side of his desk now, you could check the Do Dissidents Twitter there. That'll lift your day. A nice timeline cleanse. Thanks, Chris
so
Shipley.
Just to address all the song suggestions, a lot of Team 2112 people. The only reason I mean, of course, I like Rush, but they never say 2112, so it's going to be like an inside sound drop, right?
Yeah.
You have to know the song to know what that is.
But if enough people like it, we'll do it.
Yeah, exactly. If enough people want to hear it. 99 Red Balloons, man. I mean, it's been a while since we would not blow right through that in the pre-show.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
What would we do with that?
James Libretto, Tour Guide NYC food recommendation, Substack piece, best pizza. That's an interesting
All
idea.
right, so listen, I wrote one of those a while ago, I think. I can't remember now. When I was thinking about really going all in on the tour business, I started writing a Substack. I got bored of it very quickly. So Bleecker Street Pizza, the Nona slice. It's the Nona slice, which means, as my Italian friends will know, grandma slice. Get that at Bleecker Street Pizza, in my opinion. That is the best single slice of pizza in New York City.
Yes, that is an excellent slice. That was featured on a food tour that I put together. So yes, that is very, very good stuff there. Let's go to some more. I got Rumble Rants. Don't worry, I just got to copy and paste them. I'll do that during the next segment since Russ has the next segment. So we'll do Super Chats first, then I'll get to some Rumble Rants. Thank you for providing perspective to keep me, relatively sane during these troublesome times. Thank you very much.
If only
DC.
someone would do the same for us.
Yes, exactly. Yes. DC, OG libertarians are communists. Reed Kropotkin. Thank you, DC. I was hoping you'd watch the show today, DC, because I know you're a libertarian. So thank you for being here.
We'll have to defer that question to Tusker next time she's on.
Indeed. Natalie Williams, Pasta, I've heard libertarians saying there can't be leftist libertarians. Why is that? Well, the economic theories don't necessarily jibe, but like you could be an economic leftist and a civil libertarian. I mean, I kind of consider myself that.
Yeah, I'm pretty much that.
And from what I know of Pasta, that's pretty much where he's at too. Thank you, Natalie. Appreciate that very much. Okay, let's go on to some more segments. Russell, you got this one.
All right, so here's a fun one. Lizzo. Everyone has been wondering how Lizzo would react to the recent South Park episode, The End of Obesity, where they take on the latest craze with weight loss drugs. So we will see that video, but first let's sum up the episode a bit. We both saw it, so we'll review it a little. Okay, so Cartman finds out that he can actually lose weight with these weight loss drugs. And of course, his fantasy of what that would be like would be becoming thin, insulting people to their face, and them not having a comeback because he's not fat anymore.
Right.
This is why he wants to lose weight. He actually, a running gag is he keeps going to Pakistan and giving speeches where he insults Pakistanis. And they can't say anything back to him.
His best life fantasy is that he can bully people with impunity.
Which actually, I mean, I thought they were sharing a subtle insight on a lot of the narcissistic personalities that are most attracted to ideological kind of fat studies and critical studies. So because they do not insure Ozempic unless you have diabetes, weight loss isn't as what they call an off-label use. He gets prescribed Lizzo, which is body positivity. So a running kind of class theme in this is the rich get Lizzo, which costs about $1,200. The rich get Ozempic, which costs about $1,200 a month. For real, I looked it up. And the poors get Lizzo. The poors get body positivity. So they decide to go explore through the American healthcare system because obesity is a disease, which, as they point out, and I'll drop a slide about this, Oprah says it's a disease, so it should be covered by insurance. So the guy who approves claims, you can see, is sitting there with a dial-up phone and a dot matrix printer and just a sad bureaucrat whose job is basically to turn down claims for money. So in the B plot, all the women in South Park, all the moms are becoming MILFs because they're all shooting up Ozempic to get these flat stomachs, and they're all wearing crop tops. So Randy gets invited to a drug party because it's hard to get the drugs. So they start like what you had with AIDS drugs. Basically,
like
they start a
exchange.
club to get the drugs. He thinks they're talking about real drugs when he gets invited. And they hand him Ozempic, and there's a kind of funny satire of those 60s drug movies where the person gets turned on to drugs for the first time at the commune. Okay, so because Cartman cannot get these drugs, The boys decide to start a compound pharmacy where they get the active ingredients shipped from a factory in India and make their own doses. Now, the food industry and the sugar industry hadn't minded the availability of these drugs as long as it was limited to the rich, but in what I thought was probably the funniest gag aside from the Lizzo gag, the mascots of all of these sugary cereals and snacks form a cartel and decide to whack them for making these drugs available. I thought what probably the best insight in the episode, and I'll show you why later, is the mascots do these terrorist acts against the India factory and represent themselves as fat activists who are arguing for body positivity. And that is very much reality, as we will see. So I thought that was really funny. Okay, so friend of show Lizzo released a reaction video to this where she watched the Lizzo sequence in real time. Whose mom is that? Stan's mom? Is that Stan's mom?
Stan's mom and Kyle's mom.
And that's Kyle's mom, but Stan's mom. So
she
Stan's
goes on
mom,
the drug, yeah.
She decides to go on Lizzo.
Right.
So there's a whole sequence where they do an ad for Lizzo, which Lizzo live reacted to on Instagram.
As my worst fear has been actualized, I've been referenced in a South Park episode. I'm so scared. I'm gonna blind duet to it right now. Here we go.
I was telling you, Sheila, these new drugs, I've controlled all my cravings to be thinner with Lizzo. I've lowered my standards and my expectations.
70% of patients on Lizzo no longer cared how much they weighed.
I don't give two shits.
You eat everything you want and keep physical activity to a minimum. Serious side effects may include pancreatitis, hypothermia,
Cut the fucking album!
out your ears.
That's crazy. I just feel like, damn, I'm really that bitch. I'm really that bitch. I really showed the world how to love yourself and not give a fuck to the point where these men in Colorado know who the fuck I am and put it on their cartoon that's been around for 25 years. I'm really that bitch, and I'll show y'all how to not give a fuck, and I'm going to keep on showing you how to not give a fuck. Oh, Lizzo, bitch.
Okay. So what did they get? So we don't want to spoil the ending, but...
No, but can I just react very quickly to that?
Yes, please.
Because this is billed as a brutal takedown. And, the media likes to sensationalize, in the sort of clickbaity kind of space. It was a brutal takedown. This episode of South Park is probably the tamest and most PC thing South Park has ever done. Like, the irony is, this was the mildest, most genteel, politically correct episode of South Park ever. When you hear Lizzo's gonna get a brutal takedown on South Park, what I'm thinking is, when Isaac Hayes quit the show because they did the Scientology episode, they gave the chef this very undignified death, and then the Sally Struthers, they portrayed her as a Jabba the Hutt type. That's what I thought. I was waiting for Lizzo to appear as this big, I was thinking they're going to do something really over the top, and they didn't. Because not only is
you're talking about somebody who has been accused of sexual and psychological abuse of her employees, and you're going to do a Lizzo thing and you don't touch that?
They didn't touch any of that. They really kept it on this sort of class analysis. And not only was the presentation very PC, and this is very South Park, the message ended up being very much anti-fat shaming. Like they really, the conclusion at the end is that, yes, people are kept unhealthy by sugary cereals and by the, for-profit healthcare system. So, like, this episode was really, it was the libbiest episode of South Park I can think of. It was not edgy. It was not over the top. It was not gratuitous at all. It was actually quite tame and decently funny. I thought it was okay. Well, not one of their best, but not bad.
Yeah, I thought the best gag, because it was true, it was hitting on something real, were the mascots being the sugar cartel that are pushing fat acceptance for profit, as we'll see. So I thought that was what they hit on best, but they missed a lot of things. I don't know if it's laziness. They didn't really do their research on certain elements of this. Yes, Lizzo, that was the least you could have done.
Yeah, she got off easy on that.
Here's somebody who's been talking about everyone being accepted, who it turns out is a fucking monster as soon as the cameras are off, and you're South Park.
Yeah.
And you don't,
when South Park wants to go
that?
at you, they go at you. Yeah, they treated her with kid gloves. Yeah.
Right. And then the conclusion, while I agree nobody should be fat shamed, and they also kind of touched on that the food supply is part of the problem, they also kind of accepted the formulation of not having any control. They didn't quite say it that way, but they kind of accepted that and presented this as a choice between people should be able to get these weight loss drugs, or they're fed an empty fat acceptance, which really isn't good for them, and the food is bad, so you shouldn't shame them for being fat anyway, which was a very muddled, all over the place message, and really an uninformed one, which is part of what I want to point out here. So let's take a look at what I think they got right and they got wrong. Yes, it is not covered by insurance. So this impression that this is available to everybody, which I guess if you're somebody who is not interested in getting it, you just wouldn't know, like me. Yeah, no, you can't get it unless you're diabetic. I mean, not through insurance. You can pay for it, but it's expensive. So yes, rich people can take Ozempic and the poors get body positivity. That's a funny formulation in and of itself. They just didn't go very much deeper than that. Okay, so this is something else I felt like they didn't get into. And if anything, they kind of signed off on it. Why are you hearing all of a sudden this framing of obesity as a disease that you have no control over? Why are you hearing this narrative so much? And you know, when they need a money grubbing whore to sell anything from Harvey Weinstein to Meghan Markle, you know who they go to. They go to Oprah. You know, when Oprah's pushing it, somebody made a phone call. Hey, let's get Oprah. So why are Oprah and all these other influencers pushing the idea that it's a disease? Because the pharmaceutical companies are dying to get this defined as a disease, because that's going to open up the insurance company floodgates. So you have a whole episode where they're dealing with the fact that the American healthcare system's fucked up and the insurance companies don't want to cover it. And they're not at all, which is really beneath South Park. That's what's so great about South Park at its best, that they will work all of these angles. Don't at all get into the fact that the pharmaceutical companies are pushing hard to define obesity as a disease so that insurance companies will be forced to cover their weight loss drugs.
Right.
That's why all of a sudden you're hearing this redefinition. Some people do have a medical condition, thyroid conditions, things like that, but this is beyond that. They're trying to define it like cancer, like diabetes. It is a disease in and of itself. And I got to tell you something so you understand I'm not like punching down or talking about something I don't know anything about. I never struggled with my weight until I hit middle age, like a lot of people do. The first time I blew up, I lost the weight with a lot of hard work and diet. And then I kind of worked out too hard. I had to stop working out for over a year. And some of you might have noticed, especially if you saw me on Jimmy Dore's where it's more full torso, I blew up 30 pounds. Since I've been home from LA, I lost 8 pounds. How did I do it? I didn't take a fucking weight loss drug. Diet and exercise. Diet and exercise. It's really not that fucking complicated. Now you want to say, well, it's not easy for everybody. Yeah, you know who it's not easy for? 54-year-old fucking people. Okay, so don't tell me, oh, I can't do it because I have this or that. If you have an actual medical condition, sure. And in terms of having a food addiction, yeah, I had a cigarette addiction. I never had a food addiction. I've never had a hard time putting down food. So I can say, okay, I'm going to do this with my diet and I'm going to do this kind of exercise. I understand that. And having smoked for as long as I did, I'm not in a position to judge it. But being told you have no power over your situation You have no power over your condition. They're telling you that because they want you to be dependent on their drugs for the rest of your fucking life. Because, okay, suppose you do get it covered by insurance. What happens when you stop taking these drugs? Now you're
Right,
stuck.
of course, yeah.
For the rest of your fucking life, you are going to be dependent on these pharmaceuticals. And we've never used these pharmaceuticals on a mass basis for this purpose before. You don't know what the long-term side effects of that are going to be. Nobody does. My general view is the less you have to be dependent on the pharmaceutical industry, the better. If you can address it holistically, you should. You can't with everything. But if you can address it without that, that is what you should do. And that's exactly what they don't want you to do. And that's why they're trying to tell you it's a disease that you're powerless to overcome. Again, 54 years old, 8 pounds. Today's exactly 4 weeks since I got back from LA. 4 weeks. So also something they didn't get into. Popular weight loss drugs linked to rare but severe stomach problems, study finds. GLP-1 medications work in part by slowing down how quickly food passes through the stomach, leading people to feel fuller longer. But they can also lead to gastrointestinal side effects, including abdominal pain, nausea, and vomiting, as shown in clinical trials and noted on drug labels. More recently, as the drugs have skyrocketed in popularity, there have been reports of patients who develop stomach paralysis or gastroparesis. That, by the way, I believe, if I understood the article correctly, that's a permanent condition with severe impact on your quality of life. In August, Novo Nordisk was sued over claims that Ozempic caused a woman's stomach paralysis. Eli Lilly, which makes another GLP-1 drug, tirzepatide, was also included in the lawsuit. So they didn't mention that. Like, if you just watch this episode, you would think there are no real consequences to this. In fact, Randy, who originally thought these were drugs, has a monologue with Towley where he talks about how this is a drug with no negative side effects. He actually has a monologue like that where he's like, yeah, and I feel great the next day and my dick still works.
Your dick
Not
works,
like, your dick works. He doesn't say anything about any side effects. So that was something else they missed. Now, this is what they really got right with the mascot gag. As obesity rises, big food and dietitians push anti-diet advice. Now, this whole, particularly the General Mills thing, that's real. I think they make Cocoa Puffs and they make Lucky Charms. One company in particular, General Mills, maker of Cocoa Puffs and Lucky Charms, yes, has launched a multi-pronged campaign that capitalizes on the teachings of the anti-diet movement. General Mills has toured the country touting anti-diet research it claims proves the harms of food shaming. It has showered giveaways on registered dietitians who promoted cereals online with the hashtag derail the shame, and sponsored influencers who promoted sugary snacks. The company has also enlisted a team of lobbyists and pushed back against federal policies that would add health information to food labels. So you see, none of this is an organic social movement or civil rights movement. This is purely social engineering being handed down by people who stand to profit from you being sick and obese. Here's another one, also Washington Post. They've done some good work on this. Credit where credit is due. The food industry pays influencer dietitians to shape your eating habits. The food, beverage, and dietary supplement industries are paying dozens of registered dietitians that collectively have millions of social media followers to help sell products and deliver industry-friendly messages on Instagram and TikTok. The analysis of thousands of posts found that companies and industry groups paid dietitians for content that encouraged viewers to eat candy and ice cream, downplayed the health risks of highly processed foods, and pushed unproven supplements, messages that run counter to decades of scientific evidence about healthy eating. The review found that among 68 dietitians with 10,000 or more social media followers on TikTok or Instagram, about half had promoted food, beverages, or supplements to their combined 11 million followers within the last year. And the article goes on to say some of them, they disclose that they're being paid, but most of them do not. So now when you see this is Tess Holliday. When you see this, you are meant, particularly women, are meant to associate it with this. They're meant to see this as an extension of women's rights and extension of feminist struggles. But what you should really be seeing when you see this is this. Edward Bernays was probably the first person to pull this trick on women, to try to connect their desire for empowerment and liberation to a deeply unhealthy habit that will kill women. But he certainly was not the last, as we can see from this fat positivity, body positivity movement. Faced with the challenge as an advertiser, he's, for anyone who doesn't know, most of you will, we have very smart people, we have great people, everybody's saying it. But for those of you who don't know, he's kind of the father of modern advertising, and a really evil dude. So presented with the challenge of women, it was considered unladylike to smoke back then. So they did smoke, but they smoked indoors. So the cigarette companies presented him the challenge. We'd sell a lot more cigarettes if women smoked outdoors. So Bernays, in his satanic disposition, came up with a scheme, the Torches for Freedom March, where women, to show their liberation, would march smoking cigarettes. And that's where you get that. I mean, that goes all the way down to the Virginia Slims advertising campaigns of the 70s. You've come a long way, baby, and all that shit. That is what body positivity is. Now, there is a healthy, hey, you shouldn't have to look like a stick to be attractive. That's an artificial standard. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about trying to tell you that that is fine. That is this. That is this. That is telling you that killing yourself is an expression of liberation and that it's only the patriarchy that's keeping you down. No, it's millions of years of evolution that dictate that that is not good for you. So I thought South Park touched on that somewhat, but you're right. They could have done so much more with this. In a lot of ways, it was a disappointment.
Well, they did even touch on the, like I said, it really was very much, and this is good, an anti-fat shaming special. Like Stan's mom starts grabbing at her stomach. Stan's mom is not even a big woman, but she sees the women with the artificially reduced.
They got the box stomach.
Exactly. Yeah. So now it becomes, it feeds people like, could I be even thinner if I, because, so she starts getting self-conscious, for no reason. She had no medical reason to try and take a drug, and instead she ends up on the Lizzo drug, right? Right. So yeah, I mean, they left a lot on the table. It was 50 minutes, and look, their first obligation is to tell a story and make people laugh. So I guess maybe that explains some of it. If you try to do too much, you can lose sight of what your actual goal is when you're doing one of these shows. So it was they kept it tight in that way, and it was decently funny, but I found the controversy surrounding the episode a symptom of the same sort of media culture. Right. Like to put videos on YouTube, you have to say,
Lizzo gets wrecked by South Park.
Lizzo wrecked by South Park. Lizzo
she didn't look very wrecked.
No, she was fine because she got. They treated her with great courtesy compared to some of the other takedowns.
I am sure when she saw that this was not going to be her forcing employees to take a banana to the face shot out of a vagina, she was very relieved.
Exactly. Yeah. So definitely, she did all right, no doubt. DC, no true libertarian supports borders or nation states. Yes, well, that's why. Yeah, none of that guy's.
Well, that's why I always say John Lennon. He was Imagine is kind of the libertarian national anthem, right?
Yeah, that's right. They should have played that at the convention. Okay,
he was a big libertarian.
Yes, big libertarian. This is Blank State, Mises Caucus. Are closet fascists who threaten to throw libertarian socialists like myself from helicopters like Augusto Pinochet did to leftists after deposing Salvador Allende, pardon me. Not very libertarian. Yeah, well, no, the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, that Twitter account is one of the Mises people. And remember, he got a few tweets taken down because he tweeted out some crazy shit. So, yeah, look, I'm not endorsing the Mises caucus, but that is, so it's certainly a rift in the party. And it's interesting to watch that kind of argument play out at a convention. That's like old school. That's a throwback to the way conventions used to be. Now they're just pageants, most of the time.
Well, see, here's what I was kind of intimating with Pasta, because having covered the MAGA rally, they haven't thought this deeply into what their politics are. Right. But somebody who's going to go to a libertarian convention, they thought about that shit. Whether you agree with them or you don't agree with it, it's a thought out point of view. It's not just gas prices are high and this guy claims to be able to fix it.
Right. This guy used the right kind of pipes under the ice skating rink or whatever the fuck he was talking about.
So what can't he do?
So what can't he do? Yes. Yeah. Labels only work on food, says Nocturnal Human. Life is too complicated and nuanced to put blanket labels on everything. Every individual issue is its own thing that requires you explaining your views clearly in politics. Agreed. Pretery. That's funny. Love Craig Pasta Jardula. Best Jimmy Dore guest host in the world. Wink, wink. Thanks, Pretery. Yes. Louis Del Cruz would love to hear the Norm voice review Werner Herzog's Grizzly Man. Oh, I'll have to workshop that a little bit. I'll have to workshop that. The audacity to think you can live amongst the Grizzlies. Maybe we'll have to do a rapid fire Norm impressions at the live show. You guys will have to give me pitches.
You're such a fantastic moron.
Yeah. Yeah. The hubris of it.
I was rooting for the bear from beginning to end.
From beginning to end.
And I was finally satisfied in the final reel.
That's right. What is your opinion of South Park telling us to vote for Hillary in 2016? Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like they didn't say that, but the episode basically said, "Trust me, you don't want to give Trump the presidency. It's not going to work out." It was subtle.
I don't know if I ever even saw it.
It wasn't a formal endorsement. It was basically like, "Yeah, you better not let this guy become president." No, it's true. Like they have a reputation for being kind of like conservative, libertarian in their politics, but they're really not. I mean, they're really equal opportunity, I think.
I thought they did the douche versus turd sandwich thing.
Well, that was way back. That was in 2004. That was the Kerry Bush. You forget
that old?
You forget they've been around so long. Yeah, they've been around for almost 30 years now. Yeah, so that was the Kerry Bush election because it was the country music versus the rock and roll.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. Okay. Just in time, our government is run by big private business and private equity firms. Libertarians must love it. Yeah. I get your point there. Pasta's in an alternate universe. Even libertarians complain to me how disorganized convention was. Also, there are infinite flavors of libertarians. Well, this is what I said. I said you ask 10, just like we say over here on the left. Ask 10 communists what communism is. You get 10 answers. And then they'll fight with each other over it, and they'll fight with you over it if you don't know their definition. I'm sure it's like that with the libertarians. And yeah, it was chaotic. Pasta's not here now. I don't think he would deny it was chaotic, but conventions used to be chaotic. That used to be kind of the point of a convention.
Exactly.
A floor fight. It's that's democracy
He's making
in action.
the point that it was real.
Right, it was real. Exactly.
If you remember, most of you probably won't. The older folks might remember. David Brinkley, he was on the way out. He was really old. And he got caught on a hot mic talking about how boring Bill Clinton was and how the conventions used to mean something, and now they're infomercials. And that was kind of it. They retired him after that. But yeah, man, I mean, back in the day, they really decided shit at these conventions. They really don't anymore. We're so used to the infomercial that you think a real convention is disorganized, but that's it's supposed to be contentious.
Exactly. James Libretto, say obesity doesn't kill the Gandolfini. Rest in peace. Yep. Indeed.
All of the people like Tess Holliday who are still young, they're gonna die, man. You see a whole wave. I think it was like 4 right one after the other of these fat influencers all died. There was the one who had like the plus size beauty salon, and she actually at the end, I think that was the one, she changed her mind and actually tried to start losing weight at the end. And she gets attacked by these psychos for betraying the movement.
Right. I am now craving a bowl of Lucky Charms and a cigarette thanks to you. Thanks, Chris Bishop. Yes, there you go. All right, let's move on to some more news. I found this clip last night, and I tweeted it out. I actually pulled this and tweeted it because I thought it should get out there. This is from James Whale Unleashed on Talk TV, British talk show. You all remember these guys, obviously. You know these guys. I think it's funny how the guy in the long hair always sits slightly behind the bald guy and almost never has his hand visible. His hand's always under the table. That's just an observation. I'm not saying anything. That's just an observation. No judgment. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But they are a funny couple of sweethearts here, and they get into an argument. They end up derailing their own segment while this pro-Palestine activist named Fiona Lally sits there cool as a cucumber being interrogated by these two idiots, and they end up botching it. They end up fighting with each other before tossing to her to get schooled. So the context of this conversation, they're of course asking her because she is rightfully calling what's going on in Gaza now a horrific genocide and a war crime. And their classic retort, well, what about October 7th? What would you have Israel do? So she tries to shut that question down. They try to shut her down, but as you could see, they totally botch it.
The reason that people pose this question is because they want to defend Israel's right to continue its genocide,
well, that is why they're doing
its
it.
ethnic
it's not
cleansing,
genocide, is it?
to continue its ethnic cleansing of the
How can
Palestinians.
35,000, if the Hamas
Because
figures are accepted, be genocide from 2 million
Israel, how many would be a genocide?
2 million people. Or a million and a half.
Let's just
35,000.
Stop talking.
No, can't be.
Stop talking.
Idiocy.
Can we shut
You're not helping.
the flip up?
Every war is genocide.
Can we just? I mean, you will go. I will sack you. I will sack
Israel
you.
have killed the smallest
Ash,
amount of
can you be
innocent people
quiet
that
a minute?
there's ever been in modern warfare. I'm just
shut
making
up.
a fact. Just
Now the
very
producer's
spinal tap.
telling you, and if you don't shut up, you're going to have
I'm
to
going
go.
to make
No.
facts. You know, I've got
No.
it has to do.
The fact is that
It's going to be Russell and I in 15 years. We have a guest.
There's
We're trying
like
to grill them.
There's the second career of the Spinal Tap crew.
Yeah, shut up. Shut up. We're trying
Shut
to bully.
up, Gavin. Shut up.
We're
talking
trying
about
to bully
serious
a peace
matters.
activist into silence. Shut up. I can handle it myself.
I will sack you.
I will sack you.
Israel have killed the smallest
Ash,
amount of
can you be
innocent people
quiet
that
a minute?
there's ever been in modern warfare. I'm just
shut
making
up.
a fact. Just
Now
saying
the
a fact.
producer's telling you, and if you don't
I'm
shut
just-
up, you're going to
I'm
have to
gonna-
go.
I'm going to make
No.
facts. You know, I've got
No.
it has to do. It
The
has to be done.
fact is that genocide or ethnic cleansing would have resulted in the whole of that area of being finished by now.
Right.
And the Israeli army.
I'm sorry, what coverage are you watching? Genocide would have resulted in that whole area being finished by now. I'm sorry, what images are you seeing? Because you look at an aerial view of just about anywhere in Gaza, that's exactly what you see, is an entire area being leveled to the point where it's unlivable. So I don't even know what world are you living in?
No, what he's saying, and that's why they're trying to shut him up, because he's not helping. He's exposing the monstrous vacuity of the point of view of Zionists. They didn't kill enough people.
For it
It's
to be
not.
genocide.
It would have to be 1 million, 1.5 million before, and then what? That's what it would take for you to grow what? Peevish, concerned. Oh dear. Well, this is a sticky wicket. They've killed 1.5 million now. Like it's just that's why the guy's trying to shut him up, because he's giving away the whole ball game here.
Right. Making an area unlivable for a group is genocide.
Well, and he
according
clearly
to the
doesn't
Genocide
understand what
Convention.
genocide is.
Right. He
which,
has no understanding.
Which again, when you see people who, hey, neither me nor you have a degree in politics, or I mean, you don't have a degree at all, right? And we know more than this. Like, how much these motherfuckers get paid? Why are we not getting some of that money? He's clearly ignorant. You get a scumbag like Eli Lake, he knows what the facts are. He's hiding them intentionally. That's why he's a good propagandist. This guy clearly doesn't know what the definition of genocide is. Should you be getting paid to talk about politics on a very big platform if you don't know the first thing about the subjects?
After it's been front page news for 8 months, you haven't looked into this at all? Yeah. Yeah. Not at all?
Amazing.
The fact is that genocide or ethnic cleansing would have resulted in the whole of that area of being finished by now.
Right.
And the Israeli army are doing everything they can to try and stop. Oh,
that's funny. Genocide looks like October the 7th, what Hamas did.
Doing everything they can. The Israeli army and the Israeli government have made it quite clear exactly what they want to do.
Tell me what
which is to continue cleansing and driving all of the Palestinians
you
out
talk
of
crap.
that land.
There's no point
and
with
the
it.
reason that they're doing that.
No, they
you
try to
invited
kick
me on
her
to
off.
the show
we're
to hear
disinviting
my
you
views,
now.
and now you're trying to...
So first they talk over each other, try to shut each other up. Now they're trying to kick her off the show.
Stop
All
me.
right,
That's
all
right.
right. We have got to try to do that casino thing with this. We got to try to put this with Bert and Ernie.
Oh, yeah. Where the fuck you get those come on going over my head and behind my back? Yeah, yeah, you motherfucker, you.
You're
the
not
truth of
you're
what
not
you
exposing the
You're
truth.
lying. They're telling lies.
Listen, I didn't want this. I want this to go properly. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes, right, to state what you think nobody is actually agreeing. I want you to put your whole point forward. No interrupting from you, or I'll take your microphone.
All right, so now he's going to toss to her, and now she's going to take him to school.
And just make everybody know. Go for it.
The reason why politicians and other presenters, particularly in Britain and particularly in the West, are doing so much to try and pretend that Israel has the right to do what it's doing is because Israel is a key ally of Western imperialism, a key ally of America in that whole region. The US and Israel have a trade relationship worth billions. And it's not just the US, there's multinational corporations that are advertising real estate in Gaza. What this comes down to is imperialist interests across the whole of the Middle East and the drive to continue that going. Because British imperialism, many years ago, nearly 100 years ago, took land that wasn't theirs and tried to give it away to another people. And that was a crime, and it's a crime that has continued ever since then up until now. And the Palestinians are suffering a horrific experience because of that.
There you go. So that's what they got when they finally shut the fuck up, stopped griping at each other, and stopped, trying to kick her off the show. They got a good lesson there. So excellent job there. Fiona Lally is the name of that activist. Look at how throughout their antics at the beginning, right, with the talking over each other and shut up.
Let's just stop talking.
She's like cool as a cucumber.
Idiocy.
Can we shut the flip up?
Every war is genocide.
Can we just? I mean, you will go. I will say
this is called a genocide that goes to 11.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
this genocide is going to 11. Well, these Zionists, their cause is more and more desperate. It's harder and harder for them to go up there and seriously defend their position. And I think you're going to see less and less of it. After Rafah, after this, what we're going to cover, the burning of the tents, how do you keep going on and defending Israel? How do you keep going on and arguing that? At the very least, you have to be arguing for a ceasefire. That's the bare minimum. How can you continue to advocate for the campaign that they're waging there? And I think more and more of them, like peers, are not going to be willing to do it because they're going to be afraid of having to answer for that later.
Yes. I think that's true. And we're going to get into Rafah in our next segment here. We'll take some super chats here in the meantime. So Dodger12, thanks for the $2. It's Dwayne Allman Day today. Please clap.
What is that?
Clap for Dwayne Allman. Yeah, is it Dwayne Allman Day? Did he pass away? He died. Is this the day that he died? I think Dwayne Allman did die, right?
Who's Dwayne Allman?
The rock singer, the Allman Brothers.
Allman. I thought you meant the Allman Brothers, but I'm like,
died,
there's
a
50
years
day.
ago. Yeah. So is that today? What's today? It says here he died on October 29th. So it's a day. I thought this was the anniversary of his death, but no, it's not. It's not. Happy Dwayne Allman Day to all who celebrate. Remember, Maher attacked anti-smokers. Always wrong. Thanks, James Libretto. Yes, indeed. Real communism, says Back from the Road, is Marxism, Leninism. Fight me. Seriously, though. Great couple of shows lately. Keep it up. Thank you, Back from the Road. Appreciate that.
I think Tusker would agree with you on that one.
Yes.
That's our resident commie.
Yes. Old Stoner, if we argue about what genocide is, they get to continue the genocide while we have silly convos on what is. So this part of thing is part of their game. Yes. I mean,
You're right.
You're right. To an extent. Yep. 1669 here in the YouTube and Twitter chat. 1094 over on Rumble. Hit that subscribe button, folks. Hit that like button. Hit that follow button over on Rumble as well. That's important. We're going to keep moving on with the show. Okay, this is a gut-wrenching story. There's no other way to say this. Israeli airstrike kills dozens after hitting tent camp for displaced, Gaza officials say. Dozens of people were killed in Rafah late Sunday after an Israeli airstrike hit an area where displaced civilians were sheltering in tents and sparked a fire that tore across the camp, local officials said. Images showed the area engulfed in flames as screaming Palestinians fled for safety, with some video shared on social media showing disturbing images, including severely burned corpses, and yes, I saw this video, a man holding what appears to be the headless body of a small child. Man. Just absolutely horrifying. Hell on earth. Literal hell on earth. If you think what would hell be like, that's what it would be. Fire, burning, decapitated corpses. Just absolutely unthinkable. The strike drew condemnation from UN officials and Arab leaders just days after the UN's top court ordered Israel to halt its offensive on the southern Gaza city, where more than 1 million had sought refuge. That, because of the timing, we didn't get to cover that because it broke on Thursday after our show before our break. But yes, the ICJ did order an immediate ceasing of operations in Rafah to prevent exactly something like this from happening. Qatar warned it could hinder efforts to reach a ceasefire deal, while Israel's own military prosecutor said the very difficult incident was under investigation. The Israel Defense Forces said it had targeted 2 senior Hamas leaders, but would review reports of fire spreading to areas where civilians were sheltering. NBC News was not able to independently verify the situation on the ground. Later in the article, quote, "This massacre is the largest, in the city of Rafah in months," Palestinian civil defense spokesman Mohammed Al-Mughir told NBC News. He stressed that the area that was hit was a designated humanitarian area next to UN warehouses. One family described their harrowing escape after the apartment building they were sheltering in appeared to be impacted. Suddenly, windows shattered, Hala Sayam told NBC News' crew on the ground. The children got scared. We all went out to the street. They said it is safe, Sayam said of the area she and her family were sheltering in. There is no safe place in Rafah. This whole game they play about this is a humanitarian zone, I'm sorry, this never made any sense.
Well, this happens again and again.
Because why wouldn't Hamas go to the safe zone?
Right.
Like, if their argument is that Hamas uses human shields and you announce the area you're not going to attack, why wouldn't Hamas just go there? So this whole thing just makes no sense. Well, here's a safe zone, here's not a safe zone. They're always going to claim Hamas is where they struck. We'll move on. The IDF said its strike targeted 2 Hamas leaders who said it were responsible for organizing terror attacks in the occupied West Bank area. It said that it was aware of reports that civilian tents were ignited in the strike and that the incident was under review. The strike was carried out against legitimate targets under international law, the IDF said in a statement, adding that it used precise munitions based on precise intelligence that indicated Hamas's use of the area. The IDF did not immediately respond to requests for comment on whether it targeted an area in a designated safe zone. No answer to that question. Not surprising. So this is one of the very few images I can show you on this platform because it's one of the few without blood and gore. But that is hell on earth. That is a fiery inferno. That is absolute hell on earth. And here's the aftermath of this. Just a torched civilian zone where people were burned alive in tents. And for everybody who was saying that this is what an offensive in Rafah would look like. Here it is. Here it is. Yep. This is it. I mean, this is what we were saying would happen. This is what everybody was saying. Would happen. And this is, just from an airstrike. This is not a result of a ground invasion. This is the result of an airstrike in what appears to be a designated humanitarian zone. I mean, NBC News is reporting that as credible, and the IDF has not yet opened their mouths saying that this wasn't. They're saying, well, that's under review. This was a legitimate strike. That was their line at the beginning. Now, as we see here, amid condemnation, Netanyahu calls civilian deaths in Rafah tragic accident. So look how they changed their tone. Went from, no, this was a legitimate strike. We had good information that said that there were combatants there who we had to take out, senior combatants. And now the New York Times reports, with international condemnation mounting, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel said Monday that the killing of dozens of people in a camp for displaced Palestinians in Rafah was a tragic accident, but gave no sign of curbing the Israeli offensive there. His comments came at a particularly delicate time, just 3 days after the International Court of Justice appeared to order Israel to immediately halt its offensive in the city, and its diplomats were aiming to restart negotiations for a ceasefire and hostage release deal between Israel and Hamas at some point in the next week. The ICJ appeared to order Israel on Friday to suspend its military offensive and any other action in Rafah that might wholly or partly destroy the Palestinian population there. Some of the court's judges said that Israel could still conduct some military operations in Rafah under the terms of their decision. So you see a change in tone in Netanyahu. And then I just thought, because, Piers Morgan has sort of been the moderator of several of these debates, this was the harshest he's been on Israel in quite some time in response to this. The scenes from Rafah overnight are horrific. I've defended Israel's right to defend itself after October 7th, but slaughtering so many innocent people as they cower in a refugee camp is indefensible. Stop this now. Of course, Rabbi Shmuley did not appreciate that. Respectfully, Piers Morgan, you keep telling us that you've upheld Israel's right to defend itself, but you're doing us Jews, as if you're doing us Jews some great favor. We don't need your permission to stay alive any more than the British needed ours to defend themselves against Hitler. Your sanctimoniousness and self-righteousness in expecting applause for allowing the Jews to not be slaughtered is off-putting and sanctimonious, to use classic British understatement. I will be the first to admit that you've tried to be unbiased since 10/7, but being fair and balanced in a war between good and extreme evil is hardly something to brag about. If you cannot see there is no future for Western civilization if organizations like Hamas proliferate, then you have lost Churchill's incredible moral clarity in confronting the Nazis. To which Piers says, when the IRA were murdering people in England, we didn't drop 2,000-pound bombs on Belfast because the terrorists were living among civilians.
Also, my daughter's line of Star of David butt plugs are 50% off this week.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
If anyone's interested.
Yeah, I should have posted that there.
Get them while they're hot.
Yes. So Barak Ravi, breaking, Netanyahu says the airstrike in Rafah on Sunday was a tragic mistake and adds that it will be investigated. Piers again, a mistake? No, it wasn't. He repeatedly said he'd attack Rafah, and he did. Macron now calling for a ceasefire. Wow. That's really brave 8 months in. Outraged by the Israeli strikes that have killed many displaced persons in Rafah. These operations must stop. There are no safe areas in Rafah for Palestinian civilians. I call for full respect for international law and an immediate ceasefire, to which Piers, like I said, he was very busy that night. Well said, enough is enough, and I couldn't help but chime in. Enough was enough 40,000 people ago. It's really a disgrace that it's taking this long. But what did we say? I mean, I hate to repeat myself, but I have to, because that's been something I've recognized. After October 7th, Campus Free Palestine protests, we shit on the college kids, then the reality becomes unmistakable, and the media starts beating up on Israel. What happened? We went through that cycle again, only this time we did it in a few weeks. It was not even a month between let's condemn the campus protesters,
the campuses are closed,
and
honestly.
Let's beat up. Well, that's partly it too. But it's partly because we've already done it before. I said at the beginning, I said it's not going to take long for this cycle to repeat it. It's not going to take as long this time because we've already done it before. People already have in their mind, oh yeah, how stupid are we to be litigating Columbia University encampments when people are being cooked alive in tents in designated safe zones. And here we are. Here we are. Now, what the hell is it going to take? What the hell is it going to take for everyone to get on the same page? I mean, we've seen a ton of these incidents now where, like, if not this, what? If this doesn't break the back of the Zionist propaganda machine, what will? First, the first major event like that was the World Central Kitchen airstrike, right? Now we say it's this. Is it? Is it not? I mean, what is going to be here? What is going to be here? At this point, it's too late. It's done. It's over. They have the weapons they need. Where the fuck is Joe Biden on his fucking red line? Wasn't this the red line? I thought this was his red line. What about that?
There was never a red line. There was rhetoric to try to keep some Muslim voters from bolting from the party.
Yeah.
Gaza is a microcosm of 76 years of Israeli history. This is what they've been doing for 76 years. They've been displacing and murdering Palestinians while pretending to want peace and be open to negotiations, while their long-term plan has always been, as it says in the Likud party charter, to establish Israel from the river to the sea. They want these people out, and they have been playing this game for 76 years. Oh, we're taking every effort. We're the most moral army. They put out this absurd propaganda about how decent they are and about how their victims are really the perpetrators of atrocity while committing atrocity. And whenever they've been called out, they pretend that it's complicated and they're trying and we're negotiating. And meanwhile, they just keep doing what they're doing. This has always been their agenda, to get these people out of there and take it as part of Israel. And every step of the way, when this war is over, as it must eventually be, every step of the way, they're going to talk about how they are the victims, even as they build luxury hotels on the shores of Gaza, and how they want the Gazans to come back, even as they're displaced out of the zone into refugee camps. And they're going to pretend that they're negotiating for a return of Palestinians, even as settlers move into Gaza, even as more and more of them are established there. So it becomes more and more difficult to argue that the Palestinians can come back to this territory. And then they're going to say it's complicated. There are people living there. And this is their plan. This is what they've done for 76 years.
Exactly.
One step at
it's
a time,
not new.
Push these people out, put in settlements, and pretend it's all too complicated to resolve.
Yeah, exactly. None of what we're seeing here is actually new. It's just an exaggerated version of what has come in the past.
It's a condensed, distilled version of their whole history.
Exactly. Aspen Fallen, this show will forever be the turtle in the hair. The British show. Yeah, good one. Thank you, Aspen Fallen. SB, South Park should have done the special about Gaza. It's cowardly not to. It's surprising they don't really cover foreign policy. Also hate on China a lot. Yeah, they could have done something there. I mean, that would have been an interesting one, given Cartman's character arc and Kyle. Have them debate Israel. That would be that's material. Hey, let's get our cowbell out for Landrew, and let's get our Landrew sound drop. Landrew! Hang on. Oh, he's got to go get it. I should have given him more of a heads up. There we go. Beautiful. Thank you, Landrew.
Landrew is dead.
Beautiful. Thank you.
But he lives again. He lives again.
Very kind of you, Landrew. Thank you very much for that. Will we be able to buy tickets to Genocide Joe's trial at The Hague? Not kidding. Yeah.
I assume that works the way that any court works, like first come, first serve, other than press.
Yeah. Well, there should definitely be a rally. Be a rally outside whoever ends up tried there, for sure. Newsom Kushner, 24. Thanks, Sparky. Hey, Sparky. How are you, Sparky? Let's see. We got any Rumble rants left? Okay, I think we're good on that score for now. All right. We will go on now to our final segment of the day. Russell, this is another one that you found.
Which one is this?
Zelensky.
Our friend Volodymyr.
Almost forgot about Zelensky.
Almost forgot about our friend.
I'm getting upstaged a lot lately.
You know, this is so appropriate because today I recover the Donbass region.
That's right. That's right.
Meaning the Ukrainian is moving out of my spare bedroom.
Out of his
today.
apartment. Yes.
Yes. That is going to be awesome.
The Donbass region of Harlem is becoming independent once again.
It is getting freed. It's going to have a referendum next week on whether it wants to go to the Ukrainian guy or me. He's a lot neater.
Does it want to be a podcast
He'll
studio
keep it a lot
or
cleaner.
a Zen meditation yoga room?
I have been. Did I tell you that? Because that's exactly the way I've been thinking. I'm like, well, it could be like really cool, just like empty space with a, nice meditation bell.
A modern art museum.
Modern art museum, the world's smallest.
Yeah, the world's smallest modern art museum. Yeah.
No, I'm trying to decide. Like, should I make it a bedroom? Should I move my bed in there? Like, my bed is here. Like,
it might be, I mean, that honestly, like psychologically, that might be my recommendation because to do this kind of work in your bedroom's got to be kind of strange. I mean, people have studio apartments, but I would think it'd be nice to have an office, your own office. Boom.
This is the thing. I actually,
better for tax write-off purposes.
By Manhattan standards, I have a lot of space. But I never really took over that room. I never really made that part of the equation. So that's like, okay, well, what do you do with it? I will probably make it my bedroom and keep this as like the studio. Cause I mean, these bookshelves are, it's just part of the set now. And then like actually put a couch in.
Yeah, there you go. I like that idea. All right, this has been our coverage of the Ukraine war for this afternoon. Thank you very much for chiming in. That was our great segment on Volodymyr Zelensky.
We generally speak in metaphor.
Yeah, right.
All of this has been a metaphor.
Yes, indeed.
There is no bed. Ooh, Zen.
Yeah.
Ooh. So, anyway, Zelensky from ravaged Kharkiv urges Biden and Xi to join peace summit. Come on, guys, we are going to have great dip.
Yeah.
We have cucumber dip, also jalapeno poppers.
Right.
President Volodymyr Zelensky appealed to U.S. President Joe Biden and Chinese leader Xi Jinping. How do you say it?
Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping. Xi. It's like she. It's not she and it's not Z. It's like a mix.
Xi Jinping.
Xi Jinping.
Jinping. Yeah, that's why we call ourselves the China experts.
Yeah.
On Sunday to attend his. We got to call Max. Max, how the fuck do you say this?
How do you say this? Yeah.
On Sunday to attend his peace summit as Ukraine struggles to stave off unrelenting attacks by Russia in its 27-month-old invasion.
He would be an impossible, like a Wheel of Fortune solution. If the puzzle were Xi Jinping, no one would get it.
No one would get it.
You have to pronounce it right or we can't give it to you.
Well, I understand they play that game with prisoners there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they do to the Uyghurs.
yeah, that's what they do to Uyghurs. They have Pat Sajak move in and torture them with Wheel of Fortune, unsolvable Wheel of Fortune puzzles.
Mistress Vanna wants us out in the fields. Ukraine hopes to host as many countries as possible at Kiev-led talks in Switzerland next month aimed at uniting global opinion on how to halt the war and piling pressure on Russian President Vladimir Putin, who has not been invited. I heard they have great dip. Why I don't get an invite? Zelensky spoke in an English language video recorded in the northeastern city of Kharkiv inside the charred remains of a printing house that was destroyed on Thursday in a Russian missile strike. He said more than 80 countries would attend. That's not bad. But it was unclear whether Biden would be there, nor is Beijing, which maintains close ties with Moscow, said whether it would attend. A U.S. official said on Sunday that the United States will participate in the summit, but declined to say who or at what level. Quote, I am appealing to the leaders of the world who are still aside from the global efforts of the Global Peace Summit, to President Biden, the leader of the United States, and to President Xi, the leader of China, said Zelensky. Please show your leadership in advancing the peace, the real peace, and not just a pause between the strikes, he said. Zelensky added that the summit would show who in the world really wants to end the war. You don't want to be one of the people who shows he doesn't want to end the war, do you?
Right.
Nice reverse psychology there.
Yeah.
Kiev, in its peace plan, calls for a full withdrawal of Russian troops and a restoration of its internationally recognized borders. Oh, yeah, no, that's going to happen. That's going to happen. Something Moscow considers a non-starter. Last week, Russian sources told Reuters that Putin was ready to halt the war in Ukraine with a negotiated ceasefire that recognizes the current battlefield lines. Well, that sounds like a pretty good deal. I would take it if I were you.
Of course. Of course.
In response, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said that the Russian leader was trying to derail the Switzerland event because he was scared of its success.
Yeah, right.
He's shaken. His entourage sends these phony signals of alleged readiness for a ceasefire, despite the fact that Russian troops continue to brutally attack Ukraine while their missiles and drones rain down on Ukrainian cities and communities, he wrote on X. Russia has previously said it sees no point in Ukraine's conference. Well, hey, you know how you could get them to stop attacking? Maybe agree to their terms. And if they're lying, they won't stop. And then you could say, see, they didn't mean it.
Of course. Of course. I mean, the idea that you can end this now by agreeing to define territory according to where the front lines are at. I mean, how do you not sign on that line? And what the hell difference does it make to Vladimir Putin how many world leaders you get to show up at a peace conference that he's not invited to?
Right.
Like if they're not if Russia is not invited there, then it's not really a peace summit. It's a show of diplomatic strength behind Ukraine, which the world has already shown. Some of the world, much of the world, has taken Russia's side. So you're going to put on a big pageant as a show of force, saying that the world is united behind Ukraine. There are a lot of Western countries are backing Ukraine. And the quote-unquote rest of the world, it was a great article. I forget who wrote it at this point because it came out probably over a year ago, but we covered it. This, description of the global South as the rest of the world, even though there are far more people in the quote-unquote rest of the world than there are in the West.
You mean the world.
They're the world. It's just the world. They're not the rest of the world. They're just the world. They, at the very least... don't want World War III over this. Many of those countries are actually backing Russia. China and India alone represent, a combined almost 3 billion people by this point. And so diplomatically, the lines are already pretty much drawn. Militarily, the front lines are where they are. Russia said, we'll end this right now. Right. Every inch of land on your side of the line is yours. What's on our side of the line is ours. And their plan was never to take over Ukraine. Their plan was never to fly a Russian flag over Kyiv. Their goals are very simple: neutral Ukraine, Crimea recognizes Russian, independence for these separatist regions, which according to where the front lines are, that's how they would be drawn up at this point. The idea that there's any point, that any progress could actually be negotiated at a summit in which one side of the war, the side of the war that's winning, is not invited to, it's just nonsense. At this point, it almost seems like Zelensky's trying to save his own political ass by trying to make a show of the world coming together and negotiating an end to this war, because that looks better than him having to admit to his people he ran them through a meat grinder for nothing, because that's what actually happened. So that's maybe what this is. Because as far as this conference, what did the Russians say? They see no point. Yeah, they see no point in the conference. Of course.
Right. Unless these countries are going to attack Russia, who cares? You think Putin cares?
And they're not. If they were going to, they would have.
Care, what a bunch of feckless world leaders, mostly Western, have to say about it. They're not going to do anything beyond what they're already doing.
Right. They've already said we want to help Ukraine, but we're not willing to, take this to a point where it's World War III, or even beyond World War III. They're not even willing to commit their own men to the fight. So all you're talking about is a show of force, a show of strength, a show of unity, We've been seeing that for the past couple years.
Right.
Like
right.
What is the point of doing
Yeah,
that?
no,
at this
no.
conference?
The problem with this war is that Zelensky has not had enough virtue signaling Western leaders behind him.
Exactly. If you were going to bring the Russians in and
Sure.
you know and bring everybody to the table, both the BRICS countries
Well,
and
that's
the
what you call a
G7,
peace
NATO, and the
conference.
G7, that's a peace
Like
conference.
the idea of a peace conference without one of the belligerents is it's absurd.
Right.
It's unintelligible. What are you doing?
Exactly. Like if everyone's invited, then it's a peace conference. If not everyone's invited, it's just a show. And that's what I mean. I feel like the part of his motivation is to try and make it look like he's taking less of an L than he is. Because for all the bullshit that he was sold at the beginning by Biden and by Boris Johnson, oh yeah, you're going to be the next Churchill. I think he bought that at the time because he's a comedian. He's a schmuck. He doesn't know any better. I think he bought into that. And then by the time he realized, oh my God, not only am I not Churchill, I have just sold my country out to the West. I've just run my people through a meat grinder for Northrop Grumman to have a few good quarters. Like, can I go back to my people and say that? Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I'm Custer. Right. Yeah. Can I go back to my people and say that? Well, I don't know. I'm going to have to make this look better than it is.
Yeah. Well, I think he's doing it to try to keep the West committed to his cause. I think that's what he's doing it for. He wants to do this big propaganda thing. Yep, we're all in this together. We're all still committed to this cause because he can feel that slipping away.
Yeah. And, this like one chess move in the future, does Ukraine join NATO after this? If Ukraine joins NATO after this and that eastern region is now a neutral buffer zone, well, then Putin will have accomplished his goal of leaving a buffer zone between his border and
I would imagine he would make the NATO thing a condition.
Well, that's the thing. What if they just turn their back on it? Then does he go back in? And then if he goes back in, now is it World War III? Because now it's a NATO country, right? Like there's going to be some chess moves here, right? Because no one wants World War III over this. That's why it's just suicidally insane to be talking about NATO membership for them after all of this, right? Now, if that eastern zone becomes a sort of neutral buffer, well, then it's a win for Putin in the sense that NATO's not on his border, but it's a L for Putin in the sense that there's much less of a buffer because it's a smaller piece of land.
Well, let's not forget.
Ukraine is, I think, the biggest country in Europe, land area-wise. I mean, some of Russia's in Europe, some of it's Asia, but the biggest nation that's entirely within the European continent.
Right. Remember, this is with modern technology and warfare, the buffer zone is largely symbolic and psychological.
Right.
Yes, Russia has been repeatedly throughout its history brutally invaded through that border. But even with a buffer zone, you're not going to stop the supersonic missiles coming through from there. I mean, it's mostly a symbolic thing. I mean, the troops, I guess there was a strategic advantage to the troops being right there and able to cross over the border, but how long would it take them to get there otherwise coming out of Poland?
Right.
Is it really that much of a difference?
That's true.
In the modern world if
they
they're
don't have
coming
to
from
scale
Poland instead of
horses
Ukraine.
and elephants. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's partly symbolic. It's also, let's remember, the Ukrainians were shelling this eastern region with a Russian-speaking population.
Yep.
So there was that element of protecting a population that was seen as essentially Russian and having just ended up on the wrong side of the border at the end of the Cold War.
Exactly. All right, let's go to some Rumble rants and Super Chats before we close the lights on this stream. Zionists can have their homeland in Antarctica. Eli Lake would do well there. Eli the Penguin Lake. Good one, Ken, man. I like when you guys reference past episodes in your Super Chats. That's how we know we got a loyal audience, so thank you. Nocturnal Human says, how long... Oops, come on, do it. Well, why is this not working? Tech has been a little fishy lately. Anyway, I'll read it. Nocturnal Human, thanks to the dollar, says, how long until Zelensky becomes a Boeing whistleblower in a parking lot when the U.S. is done with him? Yeah, I mean, that's a concern many have raised. You're not the first. Sparky, thanks for the $10. I still recommend the South Park episode The Ginger Cow, which parodies the red heifer. Interesting. It came out a while before the current conflict.
Yeah.
It's disappointing
Yeah, I
if
haven't
they haven't
seen
weighed
it,
in
though.
on Gaza. Yeah, I haven't seen that one either. Maybe I did and I forget. There's been so many. Thank you, Sparky, though. It's called Wheel of Misfortune as of late. Yes, thank you, Dodger. Appreciate that. Sparky, I suppose that South Park realizes they've gotten an extra pass on not being PC, so they sit out rather than risking it. Yeah. I was surprised at how tame this last piece was.
Yeah.
Listen to what Putin said, not what some rando said. He said Putin has said that the starting point is the Istanbul Agreement. The 4 oblasts are part of Russia. Thank you, John. Could this be the My Lai moment? We've said this.
Maybe, but the war went on for quite a while after My Lai.
Yeah, and I've thought that many times over these past several months. I have. Make Ukraine Russia again, says Sparky. Don't even leave a patch called Ukraine lest it remain a NATO playground, carpetbagger, money laundry, and becomes a BlackRock property. Well, if they took Ukraine, I'm fuzzy on the exact geography of this, but if they took Ukraine, wouldn't that put NATO on their border?
Okay, so listen, I'm just going to run this down for you, okay? Age of Empires, edition 1, 2, and 3. Every edition of Civilization up through 6. Have you ever won Civilization as Switzerland? Okay, so shut up.
Have you ever won Civilization?
I don't want to hear it.
Have you ever won Civilization as Switzerland? That's good. That's not easy to do. All right, folks. Well, that's our show for today. We got Jeremy Lafredo from the Gray Zone tomorrow coming on. We will be on Rumble exclusively tomorrow, so make sure you are subscribed to our Rumble channel. That's where we will be. And then we'll be back here on all of our platforms on Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Appreciate you all being here today. It was great to see you all. We thank our friend Craig Pasta Jardula for making some time for us. Been a very busy weekend and a very exhausting beginning of the week for him. So thank you, Pasta, for coming to see us this afternoon. Thank you all for coming to see us this afternoon. We appreciate you being here very much. We'll see you tomorrow on Rumble exclusively at 2 p.m. Eastern. Join our Substack so you get the newsletter announcement. It's free. You can join our Substack for free, and you will be notified a few hours before the show when and where we'll be live. So we'll have the Rumble link for all of you guys tomorrow. Thank you very much for this afternoon. Sparky snuck one in here. The West has broken so many agreements with Russia. How is Russia supposed to trust the West in any peace agreement? Of course.
That's true. How is
well
anybody?
Said. How is anybody? Indeed.
Trust in the West is a good way to end up getting anally raped with a knife.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
As Mr. Gaddafi did.
That's right. All righty, folks. We will see you tomorrow on Rumble at 2 p.m. And then back here Thursday morning at 9. Appreciate you all being here. Thanks to Pasta. Thanks to everybody in the chat. We will see you tomorrow. Until then, be safe and be well.
Courage.
Please clap.